The number of the COVID cases globally has risen to a record high numbers.
And the Alliance Air Show made an appearance this weekend, bringing sky-high smiles.
And I'll tell you about a fun and safe way that you can get into the Halloween spirit.
Broadcasting live from the University of North Texas, this is ntTV Nightly News.
Thanks for joining us on ntTV Nightly News. I'm Alyssa Weems.
And I'm Andrew Fancher. Record-breaking turnout for early voting is continuing, and here in Denton County, the numbers are impressive. Based on figures from the Denton County Election Administration, nearly 29% of registered voters have already cast their ballots. In the presidential election of 2016, 18% of registered voters had been to the polls. Denton County is one of two in the state with such a significant increase. The other is Harris County. One uptick is the number of young voters. UNT junior Diana Zavala says it's time to step up.
The past 4 years have been awful for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. But I think when the pandemic hit and then when Black Lives Matter resurfaced again during the summer, I feel like young people are starting to realize whatever happens during this election is going to affect the rest of our adulthood. So it's we can't just sit back.
Denton County has also seen a large population growth in the past 4 years. There are 46 early voting sites in the county, including one on the UNT campus at Gateway.
One of those polling sites here in Denton had to be temporarily shut down after a library employee tested positive for COVID-19 last Thursday. However, after careful investigation, city officials reopened the North Branch Library after it was determined the employee had limited contact with voters and volunteers. The location was reopened because of recorded early voting turnout and will remain open for early voting until October 30th. Although casting your vote is top of mind these days, there is another vote due at the end of this week that could impact what happens on November 3rd.
This Thursday, the Senate Judiciary Committee is set to vote on whether to nominate Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the U.S. Supreme Court. If they do, and that is the likely outcome, it would be the third Supreme Court nomination by President Trump. If confirmed by the whole Senate, her addition to the court would lock a strong conservative position. This has caused speculation that if the Democrats take over the administration, they could develop legislation that would change the balance of power. It's called packing the court. ntTV's Felix Chidi talked with legal experts about what that really means.
So what's called court packing is the idea that Congress would increase the number of justices on the Supreme Court to change the balance of power on the court.
There is speculation that Democrats are entertaining the idea because they are unhappy the Republican Senate refused to take up Judge Merrick Garland's nomination in 2016 because it was an election year. But now, with less than 30 days to the election, Republican leaders are pushing President Trump's nominee to be confirmed.
Unless something really dramatic happens, all Republicans will vote yes and all Democrats will vote no.
During the nomination hearing on Wednesday, Senator Kamala Harris called the process illegitimate.
I believe we must listen to our constituents and protect their access to health care and wait to confirm a new Supreme Court justice until after Americans decide who they want in the White House.
But Professor Jacobson says for now, there is little Democrats can do because Republicans control the White House and the Senate, and it looks like they have the votes. Fellow UNT law professor Brian Osley worries the nomination process has become too political.
Well, I think on some level, she's probably going to be one of the most conservative members of the Supreme Court if confirmed. I also worry that given the highly politicized nature of the way she was nominated and likely will be confirmed, that it may detract from the respect and authority that the public at large affords the Supreme Court.
For ntTV News, I am Felix Chidi.
You know, Alyssa, today has felt pretty cool outside, and I'm hoping it continues throughout the week.
Me too, Andy. Let's take a first look at this week's weather with Blake Whalen to see if that's a possibility. Blake?
Well, if you're hoping for cooler weather this week, you're going to have to wait a little longer because right now, as you can see, it's going to be 62 degrees with almost a non-existent breeze of 4 miles per hour, and it's going to stay very similar as we go in tonight. Clear skies, 60 degrees, 13 miles per hour breeze, however. And if we go to tomorrow, you'll see what I was talking about. It's going to be 83 degrees, actually quite a warm-up from yesterday's temperature. Wind breeze is going to be 13 miles per hour, and that's all I have for now. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Blake. Well, hopefully the cold weather encourages people to stay inside and social distance. New reports show that COVID cases have exceeded 40 million.
If we don't take this seriously now, we are going to find ourselves in a very difficult position in just weeks to maybe a month or so.
Worldwide, more than 40 million people have tested positive for COVID-19.
And with so many cases being recorded, countries like Sweden are taking the term herd immunity into consideration. But many experts say that it might be too dangerous.
As the world waits for a COVID-19 vaccine, the term herd immunity has started to be thrown around more. But what is it? Herd immunity occurs when a virus is allowed to spread among a population freely.
It would mean that 60 to 70% of the population becomes infected. That's a large enough number that they essentially create a herd of protection around other people.
But here's the problem. So far, not even 10% of the U.S. population has been infected, but over 200,000 have died.
If you start to multiply that times 6 or 7, that's where you're starting to get into the 1.4 to 2 million number of people who would potentially die.
Then magnify that on a global scale. The head of the World Health Organization worries that could lead to more problems.
Allowing a dangerous virus that we don't fully understand to run free is simply unethical. It's not an option.
Dr. Anthony Fauci agrees.
There will be so many people in the community that you can't shelter, that you can't protect, who are going to get sick and get serious consequences. So this idea that we have the power to protect the vulnerable is total nonsense.
For today's Health Minute, I'm Meredith Wood.
Officials continue to suggest for people to social distance and not gather in large crowds.
Well, Andrew, here at UNT, it looks like we're doing well with less than 60 cases recorded campus-wide. 28 direct campus cases have been recorded so far, with 25 being students and 3 UNT employees, while 30 indirect cases have been recorded, 28 being students and only 2 being employees.
TSA saw an increase of travelers since the beginning of the pandemic.
The North Texas Fair and Rodeo is planning on stopping by, bringing holiday cheer with a few precautions. More after the break. It's been a very difficult time for the airline industry around the world and here in the United States, but things are looking a little better for both passengers and the airlines. ntTV's Blaine Tatum has more. Blaine?
Thanks, Alyssa. The TSA says it screened more than 1 million people in U.S. airports yesterday. This is the first time since the pandemic began that the TSA has screened that many passengers. Now, compared to last year, is about 60% lower, but with over 6 million passengers for this week, it's the highest volume single week since COVID-19 began. While TSA screenings are at an all-time high since the COVID pandemic began, American Airlines is looking forward to bringing back a fleet of planes that have been grounded for more than a year. The 737 MAX is scheduled to be in service this December, and the Federal Aviation Administration gives it the all-clear. The 737 MAX had been grounded globally since March 2019 after 2 deadly plane crashes. European regulators have already given this model the all-clear for service, and American Airlines is waiting for the FAA to do the same. Well, there weren't any commercial planes on display this past weekend, but I can tell you there were amazing air acrobatics, fireworks, and fantastic flying. ntTV's Ben Taylor was at the Alliance Air Show and brings it home to us.
This past weekend was the 30th anniversary of the Alliance Air Show. This year's show featured the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds, but looked quite a bit different in the form of a drive-in. This is the 4th drive-in air show in the world and the first in North Texas, and was a huge success, selling out both days. I talked to Lieutenant Colonel Coles, Thunderbird number 9, about the Thunderbirds and a drive-in air show.
We've all had to change a lot of our routines, this whole country, for sure. So drive-in show, a little bit different. We unfortunately aren't able to get out with the people and mingle and meet, sign autographs, take pictures. I mean, that's the fun stuff, right? Getting out and talking to everybody, giving out stickers to kids and shaking hands and everything. That's the good stuff. So unfortunately, we can't get out and do that anymore. So we had to curtail a lot of that. Now we just come in, we do the show, we fly around, and then that's about it. So the show itself hasn't really changed. We're still doing the demo in the same way that we were before. But yeah, the meet and greet, that has been limited significantly. We're hoping to get back to that next year.
Back in the height of quarantine, the Thunderbirds and Blue Angels flew over major hospitals around the country in support of healthcare heroes. Being the flight surgeon for the team, this is what those flights meant to Thunderbird number 9.
I know what it's like to be stuck deep in the bottom of a hospital for really days on end. You know, you work these 30-hour monster shifts and you're just breathing recycled air. You're seeing the same people over and over again, and you're running from fire to fire to fire, putting out fires all day in an emergency room, for example, or a really hopping inpatient ward. And you just completely lose perspective. You don't know what time of day it is. You don't know what the season's like outside. And so to provide just that little bit of respite, that little bit of, I hope, a little bit of inspiration to people who are down, stuck in the guts of a hospital for hours on end, come outside, get on the roof, and take a look up. And I hope they understand that we were doing this flyover for them, you know. And it doesn't, you don't have to be some intensive care specialist, doctor, you know, the guy who's cleaning up the rooms afterwards, the nurses, the techs, all the support staff, the physicians, everyone in there. If you're in that hospital and you're helping the people in need, those are who we are doing the flyover for. And I just hope they came outside and they got to see that. Give them a little bit, lighten their heart just a little bit during that day, and understand that, yes, you are who we're doing this flyover for. For me, it was a very personal thing. And also I got to do the flyover that we did over Austin and San Antonio. I was in the number 4 jet. Being able to be a part of that was very, very special, and it meant a lot to me. And I just hope that the people who are stuck down in the hospital working hour after hour after hour, yes, this flyover is for you guys, and I hope it helped just a little bit, made your day just a little bit brighter.
For ntTV News, I'm Ben Taylor.
Thanks, Blaine. That air show looks so cool to go to. But speaking of cool, that fall weather is finally starting to kick in.
I agree, Alyssa, and I'm hoping some rain will come in soon. Let's go back to our weather anchor, Blake Weiland. Blake?
There is some pretty cool weather, but right now I want to talk about the weather at the Goatsman Bridge. As you can see, very cloudy, very mysterious, very dark atmosphere. Fitting for a supposedly haunted bridge. But enough about Goatsman Bridge. Let's get to the local North Texas weather. As you can see, not very much variance across North Texas. You can see a 66 in Dallas, a 58 up there in Bowie, 62 in Denton, as I said earlier. But that's enough for North Texas. Let's go over to the entire state where there is a lot of variance. We can see the steaming hot high of 93 in Austin. It's 59 in Oklahoma City, 87 in El Paso. That's pretty hot. But enough for the state of Texas. Now let's go to the full week's weather. As you can see, there is a weekly low of 37 degrees, shockingly low. There's also going to be a lot of chances of rain today, such as Friday 60% and Monday 50%. Not going to be much sun this week, going to be a lot of clouds. And that's all I have for now. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Blake. Now, even though the weather is getting colder, why not put on a jacket and visit a rodeo? ntTV's Hannah Gonzalez is at the annual North Texas Fair and Rodeo. Hannah?
Thanks, Andrew. You still have time to make it out to the 92nd Annual North Texas Fair and Rodeo. Although this annual event will look different this year due to COVID. But don't worry, there'll still be carnival rides, livestock shows, and concerts for you to enjoy. This year, the Fair and Rodeo will be partnering with the UNT Alumni Association on Friday, October 23rd. UNT staff and students will receive a $6 discount on ticket purchases made this Friday. General admission will be $20 for adults and $5 for children ages 7 through 12. The fair will be open from 6 p.m. to midnight on weekdays, 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. on Friday, and 1 p.m. to 1 a.m. on Saturday. I'll definitely be here to enjoy the good food. For ntTV, I'm Hannah Gonzalez. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Hannah. A UNT alumni is using her creativity during quarantine to make some sweet music.
Gordon Miller is at Goatman's Bridge with a spooky tour. Stay with us. The sweet sound of a UNT alumni is making industry headlines tonight. Singer-songwriter Nora Jones sang with the UNT Jazz Singers and majored in jazz piano while here at UNT. Now she has just released her latest quarantine album. CNN's Rick Damigala has the story.
Breathe outside the lines to live in this moment. Find peace in my mind.
Nora Jones hasn't let the pandemic hold back her creativity.
Yes, I live in this moment and play.
The 9-time Grammy winner's 7th studio album, Pick Me Up Off the Floor, released in June, but a new deluxe edition more than doubles the music.
Hollow down while the world implodes.
I've been doing these live streams from home since lockdown started. And so we've just included a bunch of those recordings. I've done one every week since March.
Nightingale.
It was like therapy for me, just doing it every week, having a reason to play music every week when there's not one right now.
Or find new ways to be myself.
Jones's quarantine creativity extends into self-produced music videos.
I've actually made a few music videos in lockdown, and I gotta say, it's really fun. And I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it's like a nice creative outlet. And I don't know, I've enjoyed doing it myself for sure.
But it hurts to be alone. But it hurts to be alone.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
With the coronavirus situation, Halloween is sure to look different this year. Do you have any fun Halloween plans, Andrew?
Well, Alyssa, I was having trouble finding safe ways to celebrate Halloween, but our reporter Jordan Miller is live at Goatman's Bridge with more on how you can get into the spooky spirit while still staying safe. Jordan?
Thanks, Andrew. We are here right now at Goatman. Thanks, Andrew. We are here right now at Goatman's Bridge, which is one of the most famously haunted places here in Denton. Now, Halloween parties and trick-or-treating might be off the table this year, but you can still get into the spooky spirit by taking yourself on a haunted tour around Denton. Denton is home to beautiful buildings and rich. Okay. We're having some technical issues, but for more on that story, you can check out our Denton Connection show this Friday at 6:30. That's all I have for now. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Jordan. Now, even though the Texas Rangers won't be playing in the World Series, the competition will be held at Globe Life Field this year.
That's right, Andy. I'm a huge baseball fan, so I wish I was able to go, but let's go to our sports anchor, Jennifer Holbrook, to give us all the details on the series. Jennifer?
Thanks, Alyssa. I completely understand. I'm not going to lie. I looked up tickets for this series, and wow, it is expensive. I guess I'll be watching from the comfort of my home this year. I will have more on the World Series and the Mean Green coming up after the break. The Mean Green beat Middle Tennessee this weekend on a comeback led by quarterback Jason Bean. Bean entered the game early in the second quarter, trailing the Blue Raiders 21-7, and UNT never let up after. Jason Bean had a total of 350 yards and 5 touchdowns in the Mean Green's win. Bean was also named CUSA Offensive Player of the Week after his outstanding performance. Wide receiver Jalen Darden also helped the team with over 200 yards and a touchdown. Darden leads all of college football in receiving yards and touchdowns so far this year. UNT's next game will be on the road at UTEP on Halloween. The UNT men's golf team finished their first round today at the Merido Collegiate Invitational in Carrollton. They are currently ranked 5th in the tournament and being led by freshman Vicente Marizilio. He is tied for 6th individually and is currently 1 over par. Freshman Diego Prone is also shooting well and tied for 17th. The Mean Green will shoot their final round tomorrow. The 2020 World Series is set to start tomorrow night between the LA Dodgers and the Tampa Bay Rays. This will be the 3rd time in 4 seasons for the Dodgers and just the 2nd time in franchise history for the Rays. This year, we will also see the first neutral site World Series being played here in Arlington at Globe Life Field. The MLB is also allowing about 11,500 tickets to be sold for this series. Will we see the Rays win their first World Series, or will we finally see Kershaw and the Dodgers close out on the big stage? That is all I have here for, the first pitch is set for approximately 7:09 tomorrow night. That is all I have here for sports tonight, so back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Jennifer. Well, it's not exactly ET, but you may be able to phone home from the moon, at least if NASA and Nokia have a say in it. NASA wants to put a 4G network on the moon, and Nokia's Bell Labs are using a $14 million grant to help with the project. Now, you may be wondering why the astronauts need cell phone service, but the idea is a potential relay system for communication, and the old 4G technology will be eventually upgraded to 5G. And in that, it seems the astronauts will have a better phone service than I have.
Thanks for watching ntTV Nightly News.
Join us again tomorrow night at 6 here on North Texas Television.